From the very start of the season, people hated Velma. It will probably end up being the worst show of 2023, even though it released in January, and now that the season is finally over, we can look back at all of the terrible decisions they made with the show and roast them. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So, minor spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about the ending of Velma, but if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend that you don't waste your time because it is a awful show. But I found this thread on Twitter that kind of wraps everything up, and I have been covering the show on a normal basis, so I'm only really going to be talking about like the last episode that released. But people were just talking about how unlikable Velma is and how unlikable this cast of characters is. But it says the rating is beyond saving. I have had a hard time believing someone approved of this, and while the animation isn't terrible, it's just average and bad looking, just like any other adult cartoon show you would see, plus the side plots of the show are inconsistent as hell. I tried to watch this series when it released. I wanted to give it a fair shot because of course I'm talking about it on the channel. I wanted to form my own opinions, but after just one episode I could tell that this show was going to be on the worst of 2023 list. Never mind after having to suffer through all of the rest. Yes, the writing is inconsistent, the animation isn't terrible, but it is just average, and the writing is god-awful. I do not know who thought that this was going to be a funny, good idea, but they just do not understand how to make people laugh. I have not heard anyone say that this show is funny besides journalist shills who are saying, you guys are just ists for not liking this. But, major spoilers, Velma finds her mom, who we all know was speculated as the killer. Turns out that she wasn't and was mind controlled by Fred's mom, who is a twist villain, and the murderer, which makes absolutely no sense at all because we never got hints it was her and she barely had screen time. So yes, they decided to pretend most of the show that it was going to be Velma's mom who was the killer. That's who everybody speculated, and we thought it was going to be that storytelling, but no, they decided to twist it and have it be Fred's mom, of course, because she's white. That's probably the reason why they decided to do it, a throwaway white character to have that villain. It is just, it made no sense. It was so bizarre. Like at the last minute decided, you know what, let's do a twist because we like twists. And that's the best thing that they could come up with. And of course, they have gotten absolutely roasted for that. And twist villains can work as long as you have some kind of foreshadowing and hints in there, but there was nothing like that with this. And this thread points out that Mindy never loved or even cared about Scooby-Doo. She wanted to push her own badly written fanfiction show, and not to mention, it fails miserably at comedy, which of course I agree with. We could tell before the series even released that it was a Mindy self-insert series. You were supposed to love Velma and appreciate her, and she was supposed to be different, and you were supposed to relate with the struggles that she went through, and it didn't work. The show was not good. And now there are articles like this releasing, how Velma places a woke cultural agenda above telling a good, funny story, which of course it definitely does. They were banking on like feminist humor and cringe humor, and there was a lot of messaging in the series. Nobody asked for that, and clearly nobody liked it. It says, as far as animated franchises go, Scooby-Doo has been one of the most enduring. Since we were all introduced to the world's most famous Great Dane, these characters and his group have become a firm favorite among entire generations of people. When HBO Max announced the spin-off animated series based on these characters, there was initially much excitement among fans, hoping to see a new rendition of the popular character, but unfortunately, Velma really was never supposed to be a Scooby-Doo show. It was never supposed to be for Scooby-Doo fans. And that's what was very unfortunate about it. I mean, they basically spit in the faces of fans of this franchise. It also points out that Velma uses race and identity politics for ratings, which is definitely true. Billed as an origin story of the character, this has since become one of its biggest criticisms because they race swapped Velma, who was a white American and is now South Asian. The problem is that the series is so in your face about its identity politics that its changes to the Scooby-Doo franchise feel like a willful distortion based on bad faith. This is another major problem to add to the list. These are not the characters that we originally knew and loved, and it is constantly being thrown in your face that they are different versions of these characters. Yes, they have the same name. Some of them have same defining features like Velma and her glasses and her outfit, and Daphne with her style and her hair color, but that's just on the outside because these characters act nothing like they originally did, and that is very, very disappointing for people. They should have just written a new story with new characters, but of course they didn't because they wanted to bank off of the name Velma and bank off of this franchise, and that's all they really cared about at the end of the day, was making money, and they didn't care about Scooby-Doo fans. It also says the changes didn't stop there, though. Velma also differs from traditional tropes of being an R-rated series and also changes the races, sexualities, and identities of other famous Scooby-Doo characters, too. In that regard, the characters Shaggy and Daphne are now Black and Asian respectively, while Velma's sexuality is also openly explored. I don't think that anyone ever asked for this, and, well, people did try to give it a chance, and they hated it, because Rotten Tomatoes is still sitting at a 7% average audience score. There's really nobody who's watching it that enjoyed it that is rating it, but we're still hearing rumors about a season 2. I personally only see one way that this gets a season 2, and that is if they originally signed for multiple seasons. So they signed at the beginning for at least 2 seasons, so they have to go forward with another. I just don't see any other way that they would renew this series with the awful scores online that this show is receiving. We haven't heard any updated viewership number either, which is pretty suspicious, especially if it did so fantastic. But as you can see, Velma is still getting roasted, but it is finally over, and the disaster hopefully won't get a season 2 because it really doesn't deserve one, but only time will tell. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.